Okay, first thing we need to do is we need to set up our alarm program blocks. So, man, it jumped again. Quit jumping. Okay, add new block. We want ALARMS underscore LAD, alarms ladder. That needs to be a function block, and we want that to be ladder logic. Oh, we've already got that one actually. Good. So let's jump to the next one. Let's do FBD and hit OK. Okay, another block. Alarms underscore SCL, and select SCL. OK. Last one. Add new block. Yeah, because that's what I clicked on. Alarms underscore STL. Take my STL language, hit OK. I've got all of those created, and now I'm just going to close all of those because I really don't need to see those. And now I'm in my main, and now I need to put my calls in on all of these things. So I've already got my alarms ladder in there for ladder. So let's come in here to number 2. That's going to be my FBDs. And let's call that over. So where is it? Alarms FBD. Drop that right there. Give it its data. Come down here to number 3. And come on, there we go. And bring our alarms SCL. Drop it in. Give it data. Last one is our favorite STL. And let's drop our alarms STL right into there and give it data. Okay, so now we've got calls on all of those, and I think we can just close out of that main now, and let's open our alarms ladder and let's start creating alarms in here. Okay, so I'm just going to start dropping down some generic logic for an alarm. So when an alarm happens, what do I want to do? Well, I want to be able to initialize the condition with the reset button. You'll figure out what that means here in a little bit. I want a timer, and go ahead and let's give that its data. And that timer is going to trigger an alarm for me, but I also want that to happen on a one-shot. So let's come over here to bits and take positive trigger, and let's drag a positive trigger right over here, and let's create another rung. I'm going to have some kind of condition over here. So let's start off by saying we're going to look at something being low. So I'll pull a comparator in here and take a less than, and there, that's at least the start of an alarm trigger. And then I need an alarm bit and I need a notify bit. So let's go ahead and create 2 rungs that are going to energize those bits. I know each one of those is going to be triggered by my trigger. And then for each one of those, I know I need some digital control logic. And that's going to consist of a hold-in on each one of those. My notification can be reset by 2 things. And my actual alarm bit can only be reset by 1. All right, so I think I can just connect those up. There, that's my basic alarm structure. Doesn't it look fantastic? Well, what is it going to be? I don't even know what kind of alarm it is yet, but I've got it programmed. Let me check. Okay, this is going to be low oil flow. So let's figure out how this thing needs to look. If my oil flow is less than 5 gallons per minute, that's not the only condition. That is while the VFD is engaged. So we want to look at oil pump VFD energize out. So while it's energized, and we're looking for the brake to be disengaged. So not engaged, and we're going to look for the brake out. Okay, so what does this mean? If the brake's not engaged, that means the generator's free to spin, and if it's on a river, of course it's going to be spinning. And maybe for some reason we've got the oil pump disengaged, in which case we're not worried about an oil flow problem. We might have other problems, but it's not low oil flow. But while that thing's spinning, and the VFD's engaged, that means we're probably running, and that means we should have greater than 5 gallons per minute. Now, once you first start this thing, it's not like you hit the button and instantly you have 20 gallons per minute of flow. It takes the pump a little bit of time to generate that flow. So we're going to give it 10 seconds. So here's where I would put my 10 seconds. So here we go. When we come in here on this timer, it's looking for this value right here, right? Well, I'm going to do a couple of things here. So first thing I want to do is I want to take this rung, Control C to copy it, Control V to paste all that in down there, and then I'm just going to wipe most of this stuff out here, so I've kind of just got a rung that I can work with up here. And what I really want on there is my math function for a multiply. So let's put that there, and then I can delete this last instruction off. So here's where I want a set point. And I'm going to use a different set point for each one of these delays. So I'm going to have oil low flow delay underscore SP for set point. And that's not defined, so let's define it. We know it's going to be global, and that's going to be an int. And then we're going to be multiplying that by 1,000, and we're going to bring that out, and that's going to be oil low flow delay, and yeah, I'll just leave it OLFD. Define tag, that's going to be a local temp int. And then I can take that OLFD and I can put that right in here into my timer. So that's going to be the preset value. And from there, we've got this trigger here. So we need to be triggering something. What are we going to trigger? And I'm going to give ourselves another temp value. So oil low flow AT, OLF AT, oil low flow alarm trigger. Define tag, local temp, bool, define, perfect. And actually, no, not perfect, because that's a storage bit. No, I'm going to need to work that a little bit differently. So that's actually not going to be my storage bit. Let me cut that tag out of there, and I'm going to go ahead and punch my assignment right here. That is going to be my bit for that. This is going to be my storage bit. So let's define that there. That's going to be local static bool. This doesn't need to be static. This can be temp, because in the same scan that it's energized, it's going to do all of its work. Okay, so let's copy that trigger bit. And let me just hide this junk down here. And my trigger bits are going to be right there. So that's what's going to actually trigger my alarms. And what else? I've got my set point set. I've got my conditions here. And now I want to make sure that nobody is pressing an alarm reset. Okay, so the alarm reset can break the continuity of this rung and reset my trigger and the timer. And that is definitely going to be global. Perfect. And while I've got this alarm reset, let's copy that, bring that down here, and alarm reset is going to interrupt my alarm and notification bits. So then I also need an alarm silence, which can interrupt my alarm notification. So that's going to be a global bool. And now I should probably show you what these things are, but we've already done some alarm logic, so you probably know by now. Oil, low, flow, alarm. And down here is going to be oil, low, flow, notify. Instead of writing notification on all of these, I'm just going to write notify. So define. That's going to be global bool. Define this one as a global bool as well. Okay, so now I can just copy this and paste the same thing right over here. That's how a hold-in works. If you don't understand that, you definitely need to go back and take PLC 1. And at this point, I think I've got one of my alarms set up. So the operator is going to supply a set point value of like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 5 seconds. We're going to multiply that and output that as this temporary integer, and we're going to supply that right here as a preset for our timer. So when is the timer going to energize? If our oil flow is less than 5 gallons per minute and the oil pump is energized, so we're signaling the VFD that it should be running, but our brake is not energized, so that means our rotor is turning, and nobody's pressing the alarm reset button. In that case, we're going to time for however long this is, let's presume 5 seconds. And once that happens, we're going to one-shot this trigger bit right here, and this trigger bit is going to energize both our alarm and our notification. These two are going to hold themselves in and remain energized until somebody presses the alarm reset and or the alarm silence in this case. Now if someone hits the alarm reset, maybe the conditions still exist, but that's okay because we're going to break continuity here as well. And if the conditions are all still true, after 5 more seconds, guess what? We're just going to pop right back up with this alarm and the notification bit. However, if someone just silences the notification, it's going to stay dead even though the alarm bit is still active. It looks like I've got one more error here, and it's not going to let me put that time right in there. So that's not a problem. Here's how we're going to compensate for that. Let's take a move, bring that over here. We're going to move this int value into this, and we'll just say TV1, and that's going to be a time value. So let's define that tag, local temp, as time, copy, and punch that right in there. Okay, so now I think we've got our logic set up for one alarm, and we also want to change this 5 gallons per minute to a set point. So that's going to be oil, low, flow, alarm. Actually, I'm going to abbreviate this even better. Oil, LL, flow, SP. Okay, oil, low, low, flow, set point. Fine. And define that tag. That's going to be a global int. Okay, so now the operator has a way to set that low set point right there, so we can determine, well, is 5 gallons too low, or can we go all the way down to 2 gallons? We can now input a time, which we're going to multiply by 1,000, move it over into an int, put it into a time, drop that thing in. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do it that way, but it saves us from having to use like time values and things like that and move them between devices. And then we're going to trigger our alarm bit, trigger our notification bit. Boom! I think we've got everything where we want it with this alarm. So I'm going to come up here, and this is going to be oil low flow alarm. All right, just putting a comment in there for housekeeping. And now let's go ahead and copy, and I'm going to paste 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give ourselves 6 more of those because we've got a few more alarms to get through. But now that we've got the first one done, the rest will be easy. Next thing we want is we're going to do an overcurrent alarm. And we're looking for the current to be anything over 550 kilowatts. So pretty simple. Let's come over here and rename this. This is going to be overcurrent. And overcurrent delay set point. Right click, define tag. That's going to be a global int. Done. Multiply it by 1,000. And that's going to be OCD. Fine. Right click, define tag. That's going to be a local int. Copy. And then we're going to paste that down here and move that to TV2. Right click, define TV2, and that's going to be a local time value, which we will copy and drop right into our timer. And for overcurrent, we're now looking for it to be greater than, and we're looking for the current value to be greater than, and that's going to be overcurrent SP, overcurrent set point. Right click, define tag, global int, done. And this condition and this condition no longer apply, so we can delete those. We are worried about the alarm reset though. And now this is going to be a different timer altogether. So I'm going to delete this timer out of here and drag a new timer in. And where are my timers? Right up here. So timer on. I'm going to drag that right there. Give it a new name and everything. And put our TV2 where it goes. And then we've got our trigger bit over here. That needs to be OS2 now. Define tag, that is local static, define, and instead of OLFAT, it's going to be OCAT, overcurrent alarm trigger, define tag, local temp bool, copy. We're going to paste the trigger right into there and there. This is going to be overcurrent alarm, which we can right click, define, global bool, done, copy, paste it over here. This one will be overcurrent notify, which we will define as global bool, copy and paste it over here into the hold-in, and boom, see, that alarm went a lot faster than the first one. Let's move on. Now we want to worry about high oil temp, okay? So we've got oil temp, and we'll say high oil temp, delay set point. That's good enough for me. Right click, define tag, global int. Got it. And this is going to be HOTD for high oil temp delay. Define tag, That's going to be a local temp int. Copy, paste it into here. This needs to be TV3 now for time value 3. Define the tag. That's going to be a local temp time. Copy it. And actually, first thing we need to do is we need to create a new timer. So let's drag a timer into here. Okay. And delete this timer that was here out of there. Set our TV3. And here we need a new OS, so that's going to be OS3. And right click, define tag, local static bool, done. High oil temp, alarm trigger, HOTAT. Define tag, local bool, done. Copy it. Paste it into both of these, and let's rename this high oil temp alarm, and we'll rename this high oil temp notify. Right click, define, global bool, right click, define, global bool once again. And let's copy and paste those into the hold-in locations. So there's one, and there's two. All right, let's see. Oh, we've still got this set point here. So we still need to manage our conditions. For this, we need a greater than, and we're looking for oil temp to be greater than a high oil temp set point. And yeah, that should be good. Right click, define tag. That's going to be a global int. Done. And we don't need these two conditions, so we can delete those out. And what do you think? Is that the alarm? Good. I think we've got that one. We've got the notify and the alarm bits. Let's move on to our fourth alarm. Now we're going to look for our rotor overspeed. So we need a rotor overspeed. I'll just call this overspeed. So overspeed delay set point. Define the tag. That's going to be a global int. Done. We'll call that OSD for overspeed delay. Define the tag. Local temp int. Copy it. Paste it into our move block, which is doing our convert to TV4, which we will define as a local time value. Done. And here we need our speed. So that's going to be actual RPM. And we're going to compare that to overspeed set point, which we will define globally as an int. Done. We're going to delete out these two conditions, which we don't need. Bring in a fresh timer. Give it data. Delete the old timer if it'll let me. There we go. And bring in our TV4 right here for the preset. We need a new OS. That's going to be OS4 to go with our TV4. Define as a local static bool. And OSAT. And that's going to be our overspeed alarm trigger, which will be a local temp bool that we will copy and paste into the trigger points of our alarm and notify bit. We'll have our overspeed alarm right here. And we'll have our overspeed notify right here. Right click, define tag, and global memory bool. Right click. Hey, what happened? We clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. Right click, define tag, global memory boolean, done. And we still need to copy these and paste them into our hold endpoints, done. And let me look at you, beautiful. Am I missing anything? I think, yes, I am. Where's my overspeed set point? Yeah, my overspeed delay set point should be here. So overspeed delay set point. Somehow I wiped that out. All right. So the delay set point OSD TV4 comes down to there. And yeah, I think we've got a good alarm set up. Let's go on to the fifth one. Moving right along here. Here we'll do a high oil flow. So oil low flow. This is going to be an oil high flow. And you know what? I haven't been setting my comments either, have I? So let's come over here and over speed. Got to do the housekeeping or the job's not done, baby. Where was that? 3. This is high oil temp. Got it. And this one is over current. Okay, so have I got all these? We've got oil low flow on 1, over current on 2, high oil temp on 3, over speed on 4, and now on 5 we're going to do oil high flow. All right, so let's give ourselves an oil high flow delay. Right click, define that set point, global int, done. This is going to be OHFD, oil high flow delay. Right click, define it. That's a local int. Copy it, paste it into our move, and that's going to be setting TV5, which is a local time. Got it. We will bring in, we'll bring that into our new timer later. For now, we've got our oil, and we'll just say HH flow set point. Right click, define tag, global int is good. And for this, we don't care about whether or not we're energized and we've got the brake on. At any time, we don't want to be at high flow. So let's delete those. Now we'll bring in that new timer that we threatened earlier. Get rid of this old junky timer that we're not using here. Put in our TV5 value. Give ourselves an OS5 down here, which we need to define as a local static bool, and OHFAT, oil high flow alarm trigger, and define that as a local temp bool. Copy, drop it into our 2 trigger points. Got it. And now let's define our actual alarms. So I'll just change this low to say high, and I'll do the same thing right here. What was low is now high. Right click, define tag, global bool. Right click, define tag, global bool. Copy and paste those into the hold ins, and I already set that oil high flow. Let's move into number 6. Now we're going to do a brake failure alarm. Okay, so change the comment, brake failure. That's never a good thing, by the way. And break failure set point, time delay set point. Whoa, I misspelled failure. That was a failure on my part. And right click. What are we doing here? Okay, it looks like I deleted a quote on accident. There we go. Define tag. That's going to be a global int. Done. And this is going to be BFD. So break failure delay. Define the tag. Local int. Good. Paste that down here. And we're going to write that into TV6, which we will define as local temp time. Copy that. And actually we don't have our new timer yet, so let's bring our new timer in, paste that where it goes, delete our old timer, and now we need a greater than, and we're looking for RPM to be greater than 0. And if RPM is greater than 0, and we're looking for the brake to be engaged, then we can delete this condition. So I'm just going to, for clarity's sake, move that over here. The brake is engaged and our RPM is greater than 0 for a certain amount of time. So ideally that's going to be like 30 seconds or something, and give it some time to shut down. Then we're going to engage this timer. So that's going to be our OS6. And come on, accept it. Thank you. Define. That's going to be a local temp bool. No, it's not. That's going to be a local static bool. Let's bring this down here. Where are all my temp? OS6. There it is. Right click, delete that right out of there. And come on, there we go. Get up out of there. Okay, let's try that again. Define tag, local static bool. Consumption of resources error. Nice. Let me try closing our main view over here and see if it'll let me get through this. So we've got our OS6, and now we need a BFAT. BFAT for brake failure alarm trigger. Right click, define the tag. That is going to be a local bool, which we will copy into our two trigger positions. And then we need our brake failure alarm and our brake failure notify. Got it. And we can copy and paste those over here into the hold endpoints. And now we just need to define them. Global bool, global bool. Okay, 6 down, 1 to go, and this one's going to be our EStop. Guess what that means? All of this stuff right up here, we can delete. Oops, if it lets me. Right click all that, delete. There's not going to be any time on this guy, so we can get rid of that timer. And we've got, actually, we're going to keep one of those and get rid of both of these. So we're looking for our EStop, and in this case we want our EStop to be closed or open, and that's going to be the alarm. So when it's closed, everything is good. So here we go. We've got our EStop, and yeah, I'm just going to call it EStop and make it simple. Right click, define tag, That's going to be a global bool. So EStop and not alarm reset. And you know what? We can trigger this and have alarm reset, or we could have this just directly feed the alarm itself. But for consistency's sake, I'm going to go ahead and put this on a one-shot. So let's OS 7. Right-click, define tag, local static bool. And this is going to be our ESAT, which is EStop alarm. Yeah, I know, consumption of resources. Define tag, local temp bool, copy, and come on, paste that in. And man, this thing's just really lagging. See what I mean about this thing having memory problems? I mean, this is not a slow machine I'm working on, but the program is just, it can't keep up. After a while, it just starts to go to crap. So here we've got our, let's double click into there so we can preserve our quotes. EStop alarm. Come over here. That's going to be our EStop notify. Copy those, paste those into the hold-in places. 1 and 2. If it'll select, there we go. And now I just need to define them and see how many more resource bugs I get before I do. There's one. Define tag, global bool, done. Okay, and just like that, I think I've got all my alarms set up in ladders.